Well, in Stan's absence, he's asked me to go ahead and lead tonight's meeting. So what I'm going to do is call to order the meeting at 6:38. And roll call, as is our new tradition. Rita, would you call roll?
Yes, of course. Commissioner Ellis?
Hello, here.
Commissioner Bottenberg?
Present.
Commissioner Mir?
Here.
Commissioner Nishioka? Okay. And Commissioner Kayla? Bless you. Bless you. Here. Commissioner Kayla?
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, can you bring up the flag for us as we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
He will be doing that. He doesn't have a microphone.
Okay. Thank you very much. And here we go on the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Would someone like to move to approve the agenda?
I just want to, I don't know if we can just add one moment, one topic, a really short moment, because I know we have a lot to cover, but just acknowledge again what's going on in the world today.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. How would you want to add that, Jody?
No. What would be appropriate just to add? Let me look at the agenda. I don't feel like I just feel like we have to acknowledge what's going on. I don't feel like, so I don't know.
Current events?
It doesn't have to be a long conversation. It's just like we are moving forward as if like nothing. It just doesn't feel right to me. So I don't know. I open to ideas.
Okay. Jody, just to try and make this official, which I support, by the way, what if we put that in new business after the staff update, but before the developed recommendation?
Sure.
And it would be just current events, discussion / acknowledgement, something like that.
Sure. That sounds
And,
fine. I'll move
5-10 minutes.
to add that.
Would someone like to second that?
I'll second.
What is the motion? I couldn't hear it.
Jody, could you frame that?
I just want to add a acknowledgement and a quick, short acknowledgement and brief discussion on what has happened in Wisconsin with the shooting of another Black man, Jacob Blake.
I'm not sure if I understand. I understand the sense of what you're wanting to do, but that is not what the business that we have been hired to do. And so I am not going to vote to add that. I do not think this is the place to do it.
You don't need to.
Moved and seconded.
Okay, so we have a quorum, we can add it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against?
No.
No, so that's 4-1, passes in favor. What we'll do is we'll add it as number 2 and keep it to whatever time we think it respects and deserves, but we also know we have a full agenda moving forward. Okay, with that change, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the change?
So moved.
Joyce, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Nishina, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All against? CJ, I don't know if I got your vote on that.
You didn't get my vote because, as it happens a fair amount of time, I did not receive the agenda. And I'm having lots of problems in this commission and making contact with the commission through the computer. And I don't seem to be able to figure it out. I guess it's just beyond me. So I don't have an agenda, so I'm not going to vote for the agenda.
Okay, and so you're not getting the emails that are coming through that,
I'm getting some emails, but not all emails.
okay, in this case, you just didn't get the agenda.
Terry's with us.
Okay,
CJ,
Um,
the email where you clicked on for the teams, just above there, you can click, there's a link to the packet in the email I sent to you. So
Well, Rita, you and I have talked about my problem in getting on the internet to see what's going on, and I just don't seem to be able to grasp it. So maybe it's beyond me.
so are you going to abstain on the agenda in this
I'll
case?
abstain. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm respecting Terry just joined, but unless Terry feels strongly, we're not going to go back. What I'm going to do is ask for approval of the agenda. And if we have a quorum, we'll move forward. I have CJ abstaining. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Okay, I think I got 4. I don't know if Terry was in on that. Terry, we're adding one quick thing under new business. We voted to add a quick discussion on acknowledging what's happening in Wisconsin and the continued strain in our country. That's going to be that's already been added before you joined. So when you say you're
Okay.
voting, you're including that. Are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. And do we have your I vote for the agenda?
Yes.
Perfect. So that is 5 with an abstain. Terry, just so you know, welcome, by the way. Stan
Thank you.
is not going to make tonight. It doesn't look like he may come in a little later. We had to work.
Commissioner Ellers, I just got a call from Stan and he will not be able to come tonight.
Okay. Thank you for that update. We do have 6 of 7, so we have quorum and voting and all that stuff. Okay, moving down the line, approval of minutes. Would and CJ, you might be in the same position in this case too, but would anyone like to approve the minutes from the would anyone like to move to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I will. So moved.
Joyce, second.
Second.
Machina, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
CJ, are you abstaining on this one too?
This is one of the ones I received. So I
Oh,
don't know
good.
when they come and when they don't come.
So did you vote yes on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a little hard on this. Okay, so we have 6-0 approving the minutes. All right, we're moving now along to public comment. Mike, do we have any public comment?
No.
No, or Rita?
No public comment.
Okay, hearing none, we'll be moving along into new business. The first is a staff update on human services from Rita. Take it away.
Okay, it's going to be fairly quick, but as you know, Mike and I have been providing regular updates to City Council on human services, and the last go around we provided updates on Q2 reporting, and I think we touched on that at the last commission meeting, and I think they clearly wanted to see if there are any trends or data with regards to Q2. So, we did sort of say to them that, this is only giving a snapshot of what's going on, not everything. So they've requested more information and they want us to report back to them about the real need of providers right now. So in the next week or so, we're reaching out to providers to speak to them about their needs. And among the things we're going to be asking is, do you have a need that you are unable to fulfill due to lack of finances? So in effect, asking if there's something that isn't covered by existing funding sources. And then also asking, are there any additional or extra services you may be able to offer if you had more funding? And then do you have any outstanding COVID-19 expenses? And our aim is really trying to provide City Council with a more robust picture of the human service provider landscape. because we know data points are only going to tell us so much. And then we also had a joint food drive this Saturday with Hope Lincoln Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank. It was a contactless food drive at CWU, was incredibly successful. Hope Link provided us a report that where they collected over 2,000 pounds of food. I'm still waiting for Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, but it was very successful and it was sunny and it went very well. And also very quickly, Tent City 4, currently they're at Mary Queen of Peace. They're only meant to be staying there for a short amount of time, but because of COVID, they've been asking for extensions. And now it looks like they're going to be moving. We don't know yet for sure, but the thought is they might move from Mary Queen of Peace to Faith United Methodist. Now, Faith United Methodists in Sammamish have started the whole process of finding out if they can have Tent City 4 at their location. So that's all in the works right now. And that's it. Any questions?
I just want to say congratulations on getting the postcard out there.
Yeah.
And
can I
feedback
just say, we did not pay extra for that larger glossy edition. We wanted a 4x6, but then they told us that this would be the same amount of money. So we're like, okay, Yeah.
Nice.
I have a question. How are we going to respond to the city council's questions about, do we have needs that we're not able to meet, in view of the fact that the amount that has been requested is not what we're attempting to meet or that we've been given to meet? What are we responding to them on this at all, or what are we doing about that?
So I think really, it really depends on how you guys and what you guys decide this evening, and then from there we'll be able to like craft and help you guys get talking points together to speak to council on that. I don't know what the outcome's going to be at the end of the meeting. I know you guys are going to be deliberating, and so we'll have to see. But as far as helping you guys speak to council, both Mike and I can definitely help. And then you guys as a commission, I'm sure, are going to speak together as well on that. But so I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it seems to me that if they've asked us questions, and we're not going to answer them tonight, we're not going to answer them till we give them the budget that we're suggesting.
Oh, okay. Those questions.
Let me just finish, please. Don't interrupt me. What they have asked us a question from the facts that we collected here, from the 787,588 that was requested. There's nowhere near. We're close to being able to respond to that. So I think I know we're going to talk to them later, but I still think if they ask the question, there should be some sort of response, at least saying that that the request was this much, and that we have come up with four or five different proposals, but at least say what we have come up with is not what's being asked. And others may not agree with that, but I think they've asked a question. I think we owe them an answer.
I think we're talking different subjects. We're talking about the now Q2 report from the various agencies and just sort of a catch-up information. It has nothing to do with the grant stuff for January.
Oh, I misunderstood how that was said then.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm sorry.
So your grant deliberations are a completely separate thing, versus how Mike and I are reporting back to council every month. So that's a very different entity. So yes.
Where's Terry?
There. Oh, Terry. Oh, we see him.
We see his forehead.
And then
Back, sorry.
CJ,
Thank you.
CJ,
Sorry, I hit the
To
wrong,
your-
I clicked on the wrong button and exited out, but I'm back.
All right. CJ, to your point, we absolutely will share with them. Here's what the ask was. Here is how we evolved. Here's our recommendation. And what we'll talk about tonight is we're proposing to get what I'm calling the core recommendation, which responds to the budget. and then the additional recommendation, just like 2 years ago, that says, here's what we really believe we need and here's why. But for sure, in our presentation and communication to them, we absolutely will tell them that number, started at 787. And I also will share about a month and a half ago or so, Stan and I had a quick call with Karen and Christy, and they just were interested in where we were as a commission, the process, how grants work, and where we were in our discernment. And we did share with them that the total number coming in was that 787, and we also shared how much higher it was versus the last grant process. So for sure, we're going to be very, very transparent about what the ask is out there and what a recommendation is.
So Rita, if they were asking you, if the question was they were asking was, how were we responding in the last biennium to the grants that we gave? Did you respond to them or that, or how did you respond to them? Or I'm still not understanding what really they asked you.
I think it's the caveat is that because of COVID and these are just unprecedented times, I think they just really want to try and get a gauge and a sense of what's happening right now, and if there are any needs and urgent needs right now. So that's completely separate from the grant deliberations that you guys are going to be doing tonight.
So what was your answer to them? What was your answer to them to that question then?
Well, as I said, I'm going to be reaching out to nonprofits. So we just showed them trends and showed them data, comparing Q2 reporting this year to Q2 reporting last year, and looking at it in that sort of sense. So we just showed them there are certain organizations where service units and residents have gone up, certain ones that have stayed the same, and certain ones that have gone down. But there were so many caveats with that as well. This isn't the only services that organizations provide. So they wanted to get a sense right now of what's happening related to COVID. And we're going to go back to them later on this month to talk to them about what we've, after all our questions with providers, to find out if there are any unmet needs right now because of COVID.
Will we get is that going to be a written answer, or is that just going to be an oral?
So there will be an agenda bill that will go to council, and then Mike and I will go up there as staff and answer questions. And but we can send that out to you guys ahead of time. Once we send the packet out to council, we can send it out to you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Rita, any additional staff updates? Okay, thank you. Moving along into item number 2 for new business, and one we just added. And I think what we want to do is just acknowledge what's happening and continues to happen. Woke up this morning and saw, 2 folks were killed, another injured, and so it continues. Major League Baseball and basketball are suspending their operations for the day as a acknowledgement. And I guess building on what Jody's saying, then I'm going to kick it back to her. My thought is it's so easy to get caught up in what it is we're doing and what we do every day that you think it's fixed, and it's not anywhere close to fixed. So I'm not suggesting that, but it's helpful to continue to remind ourselves that this is the problem in our country and we have to continue to be present to it. Jody, is there any comments you'd like to build on that?
You're on mute, Jody.
Thank you, Nishina. I think that's really well said, Tom. I was preparing for this meeting, reviewing the spreadsheets, just ready to jump in. And then I just sort of was looking at my Twitter feed and seeing that the NBA and the MLB have paused for today. And I thought, and I listened to the Bucks, I think it's the Bucks, the player's statement, the Milwaukee team statement. And, they were just like, we just can't just say we're going to play basketball and not acknowledge what is happening. This is real and it's affecting all of us. And we want to do our best. Their statement said something about, when we go on the court, we're playing with focus and playing to the best of our ability. And we can't do that without, just ignore what happened and then just play basketball to the best of our ability and forget everything else, because that's our job, is to do that. And so our job is to be here and to focus on these grants to the best of our ability. And if we don't acknowledge and just sort of mention it and then be able to move on, it's just sitting out there, and it can be distracting for some of us. Maybe not all of us, but for some of us. For me, it is. And so I just feel like that we should have some time to just digest it together. We've talked about this. It's been something, and it also affects our work directly. The state, the mental health state of our residents is something we're talking about today. The impact of all of this this can happen in our own community. And it's happening in communities very close to us. So it's not something that's just happening way over there in the middle of the country that doesn't affect us. It actually does affect us. Even if it feels here in Sammamish, it's not. It actually does. And it affects our residents. And that's our work. So I just wanted to acknowledge it and just have a place, just provide a space for us to just have a brief conversation and acknowledge and do what we need as human beings here, working together to do what we need to do so that we can do our jobs well.
Thank you, Jody. Comments, additional thoughts?
I think the hardest thing is the why.
Can you talk about that a little more, Joyce?
That's as far as I can take it. It's like, why is this happening?
Right.
Yeah,
No,
and I just feel that are we like tone deaf? Like, there were so many protests and there's been so much dialogue around this, but still it continues to happen. Like it just, yeah, it's quite mind boggling.
I mean, I will add, I'm tired of going to bed at night hoping the night goes okay, right? For those places. It's probably not going to go okay in Portland. It's probably not going to go okay in Wisconsin tonight. And, people are getting hurt, and there's no easy answer to this. And, there's injuries and danger all around in that way. And it's like, it seems like I used to live in Chicago, and I always thought of Wisconsin as this, hometown, wholesome place, and it can pop up anywhere. And tonight in Kenosha could be very violent, and that is very troubling. I hope not.
It's not just only the killings, it's the vandalism too. It's like, where is the peaceful process? Right. How can we reverse this? How can we make America better? Sorry.
Not have Black people killed. Shot.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but how?
The rage of the violence and the property damage is, I'm not justifying it. It pains me to think that these communities are hurting themselves, but the pain that they're feeling is very real.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's so that's very real. And I feel like we have to value these lives over the property. And I just think about his family, these kids watching their father being shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this breaks my heart. Needlessly, in the back.
Yeah.
It's time when we have conversation, like you said, Nishina, about it over and over again. Like, you think the police would be extra careful now.
Yeah.
Eyes are on them. Yet it just continues to happen. Like you said, mind-boggling.
One approach I tried to pull together, I'm going to review this as we dig into the grants, key themes. Because for me, I can't discern, I can't make recommendations without reflecting on what's happening in the gestalt kind of thing and what are the drivers around us. And so we'll go through that in a second. And those are just words I put on paper. I'm very open to tweaking, throwing them out, adding new ones. But I am wondering if, to reflect on what we're talking about, we'd want to put a bullet point or something in here that acknowledges, racism and cultural exclusion continues, almost unabated in our country, or something like that. That doesn't blow right through this. That holds that as a place for discernment.
I appreciate that.
So that's one way to take it. It's small, but
Mm-hmm.
did you have something?
No.
I appreciate you taking the commission taking time to create this space for us to just share, and hopefully that it just brings more humanity to our work and helps support all of us in this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. Any final comments before we move to the third item, Human Service Grant Funds? Okay, thank you again, Jody. I guess to get a sense of where the group is, has everyone had a chance to read the email that was sent out today regarding tonight's meeting?
Yep.
It was from me. So, CJ, did you see that?
Is that the one that's titled Key Themes?
The key themes were attached. The email itself said tonight's Human Service Commission meeting prep. But if you have key themes, you probably have the other email too. And while CJ's looking for that, Terry, did you get a chance to see this?
No, I'm just looking at it, but I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Is this what you sent out at about 1 o'clock this afternoon?
Yeah. Yes. And I took the liberty of sending it to both your Sammamish City email and your personal because I knew time was ticking.
Yeah,
but that's exactly right.
I'm in trial right now, if you can believe that. And so I'm just getting around to checking my email from today.
You're a busy guy. Well, what I'm going to propose to start tonight's dialogue is to quickly review the suggested process for tonight's meeting. Because we've done this a bunch of times as groups, and Terry, you're new to this. I want to respect that. What I've found is if we can get agreement how we'll make the decisions, then we have some structure, and then we're free to debate and dialogue about the decisions within that. So all my email said was the crux of our status. What I want to do is quickly review where we are and then review the proposed approach to see if we are in agreement on that. And I'm actually going to ask for a vote on that if we are in agreement as how to proceed. And if we are, then what we'll do is we'll quickly review the key themes to set the stage. Then we'll start digging into the grants. So if that makes sense, I'll continue and just basically say, I really, really want to underline thank you for all the hard work that everyone has been doing. This is not an easy process. When you start grant discernment, the first little bit is actually not that hard because it's almost easy to identify those things that probably don't pass muster. But then it gets harder and harder and harder. And tonight's meeting is possibly the hardest of them all. And it's actually maybe the most important meeting we do in the whole 2-year biennial because we're going to be making decisions on recommendations. So what happened was when we did the subgroup reevaluation, we took almost $100,000 out and we landed at 389. And one might say, well, then that's the number. That's what we should go to City Council with. And that might well be where we net out. What we found in the past is we get permission to be heard more clearly if we tell them what we would recommend for the budgeted number, and then what we would additionally recommend, and we've got a pretty good track record of getting them to approve our additional requests, but it's important to land on, here's the core and here's the additional. So tonight, step one will be about how do we make that 389 go to 325, knowing that that incremental 65,000 will, unless someone feels differently, will be put into the extra ask bucket. So it's not going away, but it's not part of core. I have a high degree of confidence that the city council will support core. I really don't know if they will support extra, but we can make a very, very strong case given COVID, given the societal strains, et cetera. But I think we need to get to core, and then we need to identify what else is in core plus or additional ask. So with that, the proposal tonight is that we'd start by having, after we review quickly our themes, we'd start with each subgroup just top of mind, reviewing with the groups what you did. And I know we didn't memorize the grant, so we're not going to have perfect information, but I want each subgroup to be able to share with the groups what they did. For instance, I know Basic Needs said, hey, if at least 50 residents are not served in Sammamish by this, we're going to pass this time. That's a good piece of information for the commission to have. So point one will be subgroup report out, what'd you do, and anything further come to mind that you can cut to contribute to this 65K trim. That's one thing. The second is grant-specific commission review. This is where the devil's in the details, and there's almost no other way to do this. We have to start going down grant by grant until we can get to 325. When we start taking on number 2, my request is we all cast off whatever loyalties, whatever passions we have about the subgroups that we've worked in, and just say, look, now it's open to the entire commission to discern. So don't feel like defensive and don't feel like you have to defend, certainly explain, but it starts to be of the whole commission in number 2. And an example might be, wow, that one grant sounds good. It looks a little beefy. Could we potentially take it down and still get what we want out of it? And see, and we can start voting on this. If there's a $50,000 grant and the commission feels like we could get by with 5,000 less, we would actually vote. We'll just get in some rapid fire votings. The third is, and I hesitate to say this, even suggest it, I don't want to go here. I'm just putting this out there, that if we can't get to 325, whatever the remaining, let's see we're missing it by 5%, we could just peanut butter it across the remaining. So let's say we get to 340 and we got to get to 325. We could take that remaining and just bring all the grants down by that. There's pros and cons to that for sure. And then the fourth would be, and at that point, hopefully between 1, 2, and 3, we would have 325 identified. We would vote on the body of 325, and then we would move into additional asks. Mike will be keeping track of anything moved out of the current ask into what we're calling carryover. So we're not going to lose track of that. So this is a very sequential approach. Any questions, concerns, comments, or ways we might refine this? Or does it sound good?
I don't like number 3.
Does anything come to mind? Me neither, not really, I really don't. But yet, does anything come to mind if we're off by 15, how we get to that 325 from your view?
Not at all. Don't touch basic needs or mental health or cultural or seniors or violence.
None of it.
Find it someplace else.
Or maybe we
Go ahead.
Maybe we won't have to go to number 3. Let's hopefully we won't have to go there.
Yes. Well, and I would be fine, I put that in there for discussion, I'd be fine taking 3 out for now. And if we get to a point where we have an issue, I mean, this is our work and this is the commission that we're proceeding with a recommendation. If we can't get there, but we believe in everything, that's a place to pause and say we can't get there. I just know that it is easier if you give them what they want and then ask for more. But so let me ask any other comments, and I have an idea on number 3 potentially. Any other comments on this as an approach for this meeting?
Let's try what we have here.
Say that again, sorry, Joyce.
Let's just try what we have here.
Okay, so either we can vote on the flow. I want to make sure we're in sync, and if anybody has any suggestions, make them, or we'll approach this. Or we could jettison number 3, knowing we'll have to come up with something after 2 if we don't get there. Is that a approach you'd be more comfortable with?
That could work.
Okay, so can I get a motion? I'm going to jettison number 3. Can I get a motion to approve the approach for this meeting that includes 1, 2, and 4 as our approach, and knowing that we might have a gap at the end of 2 and we'll have to figure out how to handle that?
I can make the motion.
Okay, anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor of this approach to proceed, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? 6? Oh, wow, that's progress. Okay, with that, thank you for that. What I want to do, Mike, is it, or Rita, is it possible to quickly bring up the Word document that says key theme? By sharing some of your screen?
Yep, just hold on. Mike is bringing it up. Is it an email?
And the reason that I want to quickly review this, and I'm looking for either, I don't know what that means, I disagree, or you should add this, was included in the email I sent.
It's the, yes. Yeah.
What it does is it helps set the stage not only for what we've done already, but it reminds us how we've proceeded, and it could inform us as we have to start trimming some of these grants. So I'm just going to work down there. If anybody has any questions, comments, or would like to even read some of the bullet points, go for it. Or if something called you, I know you've only had this since 1 o'clock. So the key things for me, as I mentioned, I had to put some context around what it is we're doing. Point number 1 is, in this day of COVID, 10% unemployment, great uncertainty, you'd have to say basic needs in the community are accelerating. Food, housing, the eviction moratorium is going to come off, utilities are becoming a concern. The truth is we don't fully know exactly how much, but it stands to reason that basic needs, really, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy and food and shelter, that is increasingly concerning to many folks. The next point is what I call ancillary strain, and I'm not wild about the word ancillary if somebody has another word, but ancillary strain is actually less visible, but often equally debilitating. So mental wellness counseling, domestic violence, I don't know if you heard, but there was a domestic violence incident in Redmond yesterday or the day before that ended in someone passing away. Isolation issues, really for all of us, but certainly for those that are particularly vulnerable. And then community building efforts are almost put aside for now, but they are important to longevity and health and all that. So the two go hand in hand. The actual size of the need is evolving as new uses emerge. So the work Rita's doing is going to be super helpful as we really take the pulse of what's needed out there. But as I mentioned, basic needs, eviction, unemployment, all of that is causing strain. Expert intake, if you do any reading on this, it's like, just because domestic violence isn't spiked in reporting doesn't mean it's not happening. Same with child abuse, etc. I found, any comments before I go on? I'll just pause.
Please go on.
Okay, so I found there is a funding tension between near-term, what I'm calling survival, and longer term. I originally had this as thriving, and Joyce and I chatted, and she's like, who's thriving these days? So I refined it to settling, right? The truth is, many of us are settled. We're not thriving, but we're also not surviving. Many of these grants are to direct toward those who are truly trying to survive or will have to try and survive moving forward over the next year and two. Communication on how to get help is critical. Thank you for the postcard. I think that was an excellent start. And then finally, what do we know? We know without doubt that the need has increased since the last grant review period because of what we're all living through. We believe that the situation is getting more difficult or dire for those with little cushion. So I did a little Googling and interneting and all that stuff. And it turns out as of March 2019, the average household income only had $8,863 in savings. That's not a big number. And in fact, almost 30% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. How that relates to Sammamish, we don't 100% know, but what we can say is that Sammamish housing costs are higher as a percent of household budget given the expenses of living here. So when things start sliding downhill, it's entirely likely they get more severe faster. So that's the dynamic that we are discerning these grants on. Any comments before I comment on City of Sammamish?
Gotta get in there. Perfect.
Do I hear something? So when I think about the status of the City of Sammamish, I feel like we as leaders have to tell the truth of what we see when it is positive and when it is could be improved. So that was the mindset. Despite recently increased grant support, and there have been some nice wins and nice support by the council, the youth mental wellness, that was hard work, but good work. And I think it ended up in a very good place. There was some incremental COVID emergency that was actually driven largely by a few members of the council. And then of course, the 2019-20 grant cycle, we actually got more than was budgeted at the time. We got 325, I think something like 240 or 260 was budgeted. So support and growth. Having said that, you'd have to say Sammamish continues to pace behind neighboring towns, both in total dollars and per capita. We have to plug those in. The last time I saw, for instance, Ithaca was 10 per capita and we were maybe 5. And what's worth underlining is all the towns around us, Issaquah, Redmond, Bellevue, Carnation, etc., have similarly focused strategies, indirect service providers. The only exception is there's Mercer Island has a youth-focused program that is actually direct. And then there's one thing for homeless in Redmond, but those are small exceptions. So if you want to compare like to like, and you don't have to follow this path, but it's worth pulling this out. And so we'll input those numbers. Secondarily, in addition, in context, I have to say the human service budget represents a very small percent of the total city budget. It has grown. That's good. We're a newer commission. This is a growing city. But the status quo budget is a very small percent of the city budget. Just need to say that out loud. And there's also an element of participating as a good community citizen. And that's where it gets strainful about homeless, etc. I can tell you if someone is in domestic violence stress, they're almost certainly not going to seek help in our city. They'll probably seek help and be put in another city. So that's where a community approach has to be considered. Having said that, it is important that we know how much impact this is all having in Sammamish. And the other thing I wanted to just say was that we do know throughout our work that we put emphasis on those grants that overlap and in effect serve double duty. So mental wellness and cultural inclusion, for instance, there's a couple grants like that, and there's others. So I want to pause here and get into the work. Any comments on that section I just went through under key themes, or if I missed anything, we can put something about racism and cultural exclusion, Jody, as we just talked about. Is there anything else that sets the stage that we should be changing or adding here? Okay. And then finally, I won't spend as much time in this next section, but questions that we've all wrestled with, that we bring with us as we do our work. Question, of course, is what are we trying to accomplish with our grants? Well, I put some bullet points down. We want to provide assistance to citizens in need, where and when they need it. We want to hopefully move toward more of a thriving, settling mindset versus just surviving. But for some, surviving is going to be all they can do for the next year. And we also hope to build community. How will we know when enough is enough for Sammamish? That's a very difficult question. How do we know the actual impact of our grants? Rita and others do great work getting information, and the grantees ask or bring that information forward. But it's a fair question. What's the impact is this making, and what are our true needs? One way to think about even tonight's work is we came into this saying 325, 325, 325, because that was in the budget, because that was the last cycle. But if that constraint wasn't there, if the 6 of us just were put in here and we didn't have that constraint, what would we recommend? And if we can get to that, that might be inclusive of the additional ask. Also worth noting how many other what other communities contribute, kind of a double comment there. I'm not going to go into that. And then how much our needs increase and are likely to increase given the current underlying dynamics. If anybody thinks unemployment is going to go below 7 or 8% anytime soon, it's 10 right now. I believe that's kind of a hopeful dream, and I hope it does, but it probably won't. The timing, if you look at $8,000 per family, the fact is that is being run down even now. So this has been going on a long time, not a lot of family buffer. Question is, where are people turning for help now, and what are our near-term needs? Any comments or other things that you guys would put? So this, in part, starts to tee up what we would say to the council. Anything else there, guys? Okay, moving down. One mindset I wanted to share that I'd heard about the virus, actually, but it actually seems to, if you go to the second page there, whoever was putting that up, one mindset I would like to suggest, and the devil's in the details and the numbers are going to be the numbers, but one mindset is that in this time, I encourage us to consider taking more significant action than we truly feel is needed right now. And nonetheless, I'm pretty sure we'll look back and wish we had done more, because that's the dynamic we find ourselves in. Now, we need to then figure out what that actually means relative to the grants. So with that, and the discussion flow we've kind of already reviewed, so I won't go through that down there again. We'll move right to the process for tonight. But any other questions, comments, that kind of thing on what I just reviewed? Okay.
Thanks, Tom, for putting all that together.
Welcome. To me, it just sets the context. So moving to now it's in the details. We are looking for $65,000 that would be moved from the refined recommendation camp into the additional ask. That would be a carryover. But what I'd like to do per our number 1 subgroup report out is just ask each group to sensitize the rest of the commission to what they did in their reflection. And don't worry if you don't remember every detail, that's not the objective here, but how you approach going to your refined recommendation. Nishina, I see you guys went from 175 to 162, but I acknowledge that you started with a big number, 305, and so just to call that out. But what was your mindset, Nishina, and what should we know about the work you and Stan did?
So Tom, to begin with, even in the first round, I think we were very strategic. We really focused on direct one-on-one counseling and other services, on youth and other populations that really would benefit from mental health services. We were also strategic in terms of funding those applications um, that were likely to benefit a large number of Sammamish residents, and that showed leverage. Um, so there were many proposals where um, the applicants had said that um, they would be getting resources from other sources, but would be using a large part of those resources to provide services in Sammamish, and that showed leverage. So for a number of those reasons, we had decided not to fund many proposals in the first round itself, and then the additional cuts we made were uh, of proposals where, we felt that the organization will not be able to meet its service units. So the Lake Washington Links program, for example, is just focused in one elementary school. And with COVID, um, we didn't think they would be able to meet their service units. I think they have a focus on, they have a lunch buddy program, which we didn't think, they would be able to implement. Similarly, so we decided not to provide any funding to the One Love Foundation, which um, has a great mission, but we knew that they don't provide, they don't have networks in Sammamish. And then we also cut funding for those applications or those proposals that we felt were quite strong. But because we were required to cut, so we did. So one was the Youth East Side Services, Behavioral and Healthcare for Children. And we decided to, so initially their proposal had come at 61,000. We decided to fund them at 50%. And then we cut an additional 4,000 this time around to fund them at the level we have funded them last year. So, so we did make as many cuts as possible. Now, the challenge we are running into is that one of the proposals is from CrossPath, and they want funding for one FTE master's level therapist, and that's coming to around 95,000. So we have like two such proposals that are, at a higher level. And the CrossPath one is one that's at 95,000. It's way above all the other proposals. But in order for them to really fund that one FTE, we need to provide this amount. That's the challenge. So, so I doubt, like, Stan is not here, so obviously, I can't consult him, but he would also not want to cut that one. So there are some where I think there's one could cut funding further. But then I would like to include that funding as the extra ask that we have. Because they are really strong proposals. We are cutting them just because we have to,
Yes.
So the Youth East Side one is a good example. Because they provide directly relevant, counseling services and services, mental health, domestic violence, substance abuse related services. So, so that's one where we could cut, because the CrossPath one, like, we really think if we don't fund them, they won't get their one FTE. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, Nishna. On the CrossPath one, it's paying for the full FTE. Did they not indicate they have any other resources in their budget?
Let me see. That's a good question.
Because there would be a one FTE for the Sammamish Plateau, which means they wouldn't be able to ask for other fees.
Yeah, they have not indicated. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only. They've in their budget they've shown like that they're requesting this only from Sammamish. They haven't requested any funding from any other cities or through foundations or any other state or county government funding. They have not requested anything. It's just from the city of Sammamish.
And then I think I know the answer to this because this all sounds very familiar. Following the youth mental wellness
Exactly.
grant,
Yeah.
the 95K is for a licensed therapist versus I think we had funded them at reading 60 or 75K, but it was almost a therapist in training or something. Does anybody know? Because the 95 seemed higher than what we gave them last time, but I could be wrong on that.
Remember,
Yeah.
95 includes the administration, the equipment, and the travel and training, plus the benefits for the position.
And
Because
it's for
these
the
are
full
for
year as
67
well. I'm sorry. And it's for the full year, whereas before we were only like funding from like 3/4 of the year.
Got it. And the background is that there is and has been a dearth of available capacity. I've actually seen them when people are looking for mental wellness for youth. I've seen them say, "Hey, give us a call. We can provide free counseling. In some cases." So I know they're out there working it in the community. But to Nishina's point, it is a big chunk.
That's the big chunk. I mean, I really don't think we have several small grants to really very effective organizations like Teen Link or Crisis Line, and I'm not gonna cut like a few thousand. Like they are at 6,000 or 5,500. It doesn't make sense to cut those at all because they are really effective programs. The big ones in our portfolio are CrossPath and Youth Eastside Services. And there too, I know, again, Stan is not here, so I won't be able to get his perspectives, but that's the one I think he'll feel much more comfortable cutting, the Youth East Side Services. We suggested funding them at 26,000. We could go down to 10 maybe. The CrossPath one, I don't think he'll agree to not fully fund them. I would be okay with funding them at a lower level. I mean, I feel as though they should leverage um, other sources. I mean, I'm not sure why they are relying solely on the city of Sammamish to fund this FTE. So I would be open to reducing their funding, but I don't think Stan would.
CrossPath, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and my understanding is it's exclusively for Sammamish. So,
Okay.
'cause we pushed them on that pretty hard, and we even said, "Oh, come on, 95, you can make it with 80." And they came back and said, "This is really the cost of these people, and you can't get good ones if you don't." So, so maybe this is how we start to move down this process tonight. What I think I'm hearing is, and all of this is hard, and in discussion this morning, we talked about creating another column on this, which is carryover from the refined recommendation. And I'm a big fan of UC Side Services, so hard to say, but what I think I'm hearing is, at least for now, Nishina, could we do, say, 10 for youth East Side Service and carry over that 16 to the extra ask?
Yeah. And
Okay.
another one which I would be okay with not funding is the Athletes for Kids, but that's a contentious one. Like some people feel very strongly in favor of funding it, others don't. Um, you know, that's at least we can fund them at a lower level. So we have recommended 5,000. I mean, we could potentially fund them at a lower level.
I have two questions. One is for yes, is that a continuation of the full-time position that we funded with the youth grants, youth mental health grant, or is that an additional position? Do we know?
So I know that the Youth Eastside Services one is for counselling within Lake Washington schools. We're paying for part of one. Part of the counsellor, and then the CrossPath YES CrossPath is a continuation.
So it's the same person, it's just adding another for next year, for the next year. So, okay, so that, and then on the Athletes for Kids, what did we fund them last year at?
5,
5.
and that was it was 10,000 the year before that.
I mean, one approach on that could be, because there is an argument for us to make put some strength and power into the additional ask. So if Athletes for Kids, you could go 2,500, 2,500 and say what you're getting is, for instance, this is what you're incrementally getting by the ask. So you are more fully funding YES, you're more fully funding Athletes for Kids. And in showing that we had to make choices and we had to actually cut versus last year some things we didn't want to, but we did make those choices, and that might have some power for the council to give us a little more money.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one's saying they're not worth it. That's the thing. None of these, under
Yeah.
refined recommendations and even
Yeah.
the extra ask, these are all worthwhile
Yeah,
grants.
exactly. Yeah.
So
So
what about
Tom,
extending the process? If we really say that YES really is doing a great job and there's a big need for them, why not just tell the council? They just need it, period. And it's, I know it doesn't fit your budget, but sometimes human needs don't fit budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the assumption, CJ, from what worked last time was they listen more intently about what we are saying incremental need is. If we show them how we can, what we do if we only had the budget, but also explain to them this is not our recommendation, this is not ideal at all. Rather than going in and saying, darn it, give us 400,000, they'll start going down this list and cherry picking would be my concern. Or they might shut off and say, look, you guys, you knew what the budget was. It's actually easier to come back with your recommendation if it beats budget. I think you got to show budget and then show what you would lose if you don't do the extra ask. And I don't know if everybody feels like that. I can just say it worked last time.
Well, it's a different council too. It's a whole new council than it was last time. And I just wonder if we're just not saying, oh, well, our job is to meet the budget. We'll just have to say we just can't do this. And people would say, well, what about the kids that are suffering? And we say, well, that's the budget you gave us.
I don't think that's what we're saying, though, CJ. I feel like if Tom's approach is that's not what we're saying. We're saying this is, you gave us a budget. This is what we would do if we had to stick with the budget, but that's not what we're asking. We're asking for this extra ask, this additional whatever it's going to be, $80,000, because the community needs it, particularly now. And so we're really advocating to what we really want is whatever it is, 80,000 or 80 something thousand over the budget amount. So here's the budget amount, but this is what we really need, and what you're going to get is XYZ. And I do agree with Tom. I worry. I think if we can direct them on how we would spend that extra 80,000, as opposed to them cutting the budget and saying, well, we like this organization because we're familiar with them, and we don't really know this organization that well, so we want to cut those because they haven't done the research. So I would rather give them a package deal of saying, this is our extra ask. This is what is really, we've done lots of research. We've combed through these proposals. You picked us for our expertise. We've really gone through it and spent a lot of time. And this is what we really need, what this community really needs. So this is our ask, is that we go 80,000 more, and this is whatever the dollar amount is. And this is the group or the portfolio of grants that we're asking for. I don't think by giving them the budget amount is saying that's what we want or what we're advocating for at all.
I can promise you when it's presented, it will not come off like that.
Yeah.
Well, but is our job to present it in a way that they want to hear it? Or is our job to present it in the way of we have the research that we have done and the grants that the agencies have submitted? That's life. And they've got, we've known for a while that Sammamish does not give the same amount of money to human needs as other cities. We looked at that last year, and they just need to realize they got to do something about that.
Well, and they have incrementally funded, and our job is not to tell them what they want to hear. Our job is to discern and show them our recommendation. But from experience, if you don't meet them at their starting point, they're going to turn off, or they're going to start taking matters in their own hands and not allow us to use the expertise that we actually have built up. So that's why we're pushing for this first, get us to 325, knowing that will all carry over. And again, that's exactly the approach we took last time, and we were successful. And just from my experience, I would want somebody to come back to me, tell me what I can get for my money, and tell me what else I'm going to get if I can find some more money for you.
And CJ, I agree, CJ, that I think in our presentation, we should say whatever the extra ask part is, the total amount, and say, this is our recommendation.
Yes.
But if you are not going to go with our recommendation, then, and you feel like you have to go with the budget amount, then this is what we are suggesting is the things that need to be cut. I don't want them to take matters into their own hands and cherry pick the ones that they have some connection to and disregard all of the research that we've done and pick what they want to cut. So I would rather present our full recommendation, just as you are suggesting, CJ, the total amount, and say, this is our recommendation, and then walk back. We're starting at, let's go to the budget and add, but when we present it to them, we don't present it that way. We don't present, here's your budget, and oh, give us a little extra for this. We present it as, this is our recommendation, the full amount. We were...
That's what we did last time.
Yeah.
And then we showed them the subcomponent, which was the budget. And I also want to make sure we're all on the same numbers. So if you added refined request, refined recommendation at the very top, can you go up? I'm not, Rita, are you managing this spreadsheet? Or Mike? There you go. If the actual, after a lot of discernment, where this commission has netted out is we find merit at 389 plus 79. So that is 468. So in effect, if all we did was said our job is done, this is our ask, we would go to 468, which would be 143K over. One thing we're going to have to reflect on is that what the number is for the total ask, or can we trim it to get it a little closer, thinking, working, being a little bit more realistic? Or if it is what it is, then that's what it is. But I just want to make sure people understand what's in play right now is 389 plus 79.9. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to keep working down the list. Nishima, this is exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. So, and Mike, do you have your fancy spreadsheet you can bring up for the carryovers, et cetera, and we can do this real time, or are we just taking notes?
Mike is just going to add that.
Okay. So what we talked about this morning, so we can all keep track, there is the extra ask, which is a discussion, but we're saying carryover. Look at that, as if magic. So what I think I heard Nishina say is Youth Eastside Service, the refined request column goes to 10, and the carryover now is that remaining 16.
Yeah.
And if there is a thing where it's trimmed out of refined request and you don't want to carry it over to the ultimate request or recommendation, let us know as we work through each one of these. But I'm 95% certain anything trimmed out of refined, it wouldn't be in refined request if it wasn't valuable, right? So is there anything else, Nishina? I think what you're hearing is support for continued cross path, knowing it's a big chunk, but understanding why full year, needing the community. Oh, and I think we said for now, athletes for kids, 2,500 and 2,500.
Yeah, and then there's another one. There's Friends of Youth Family Services Counseling. So the proposal came in at 20,000. We decided to fund them at 10. We could potentially cut a bit from there, that maybe. I mean, ideally, it's not, I mean, both these, like the Friends of Youth Family Services Counseling as well as the Youth East Side Services, like we wouldn't really want to cut them because they're really critical for this portfolio. But if we really do have to, then that's another one.
Okay. Can we put that in for now and keep working down?
Yeah.
But I heard that loud and clear. And so, Mike, I think I'm hearing Athletes for Kids now goes to 2,500, 2,500. And Nishina, thank you very much for your just forthrightness and transparency. That's what we all need to do, is just bring forward this. And then what was the other one, Nishina?
Again, like I'm not consulting Stan, so this is just my assessment. It's Friends of Youth Family Services Counseling.
Can we go down just like 2,000? Like, we already got going down so much from 20. It just feels a lot.
So go like 8 and
8.
2.
Yeah. I don't know. Nishina, what do you think?
Which one?
For Friends of Youth, just cut it down to 8,000 instead of 10. Like, don't go down to 5. It just feels like that's too much.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Rita put her hand up, I think.
Yeah.
Is that your hand up?
I know. I've never been that polite. So
nice.
I suggest, and again, this is the will of the commission, that Nishina, I do understand what you're saying about the cross-path proposal, wanting to fund it fully. But I feel like if you took a few thousand off there, I still feel like they would still employ a full-time person. And I don't think that, like, that's just my sense of it. So if you cut like 5, like, you know, I don't know, I feel like that would be a safe place to cut, and you won't be impacting just in my opinion. But again, it's up to you guys as a commission.
Yeah, I'm totally opening to cutting some
over
from
like Youth East Side Services and Friends of Youth is my sense.
But then I wouldn't cut as much from the Youth East Side Services, behavioral health care. I mean, so it'll get balanced out. I wouldn't really. Then, I mean, we can take 5 off cross path, but then add that to Youth East Side Services.
Okay.
Behavioral health. Okay, that's
I like
cool.
that better too.
So that would be 50.
So the carryover.
Okay.
The carryover will be 11,000 for Youth East Side then.
Yes, because it'll be 15 and 11.
15, yeah.
And then 11 there. And then what we're saying is the cross path goes to 90,000, and then 5,534 goes to carryover.
Yeah.
Unless, okay, so here's a question. Rita, I'm just thinking out loud, and I've been in this situation where it's like, well, I can't get you all the way there. I can get you 90. Can you guys scrabble to, can you either find the incremental 5,000 or make it go away, or I can't get you the position? And no one would say no to that, right? So now I also hear Jody in the back of my mind saying sometimes, you know, people like us try and scrimp, and it really is important dollars. What I'm wondering is, for cross path, does that 5,534 just go away? Because we do have the 143, which feels high to me in terms of how much we can incrementally ask, would be my instinct. So does that make sense? Am I making sense there?
I agree. I kind of think so. I totally hear my own voice talking about coming from the nonprofit.
You've trained us.
But I also feel, just strategically looking at the full portfolio, we're scrimping on every single organization that we believe has strong, except for that one, fully funding, and it just does not feel equitable.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just feel like we got to cut a little bit from them if we're cutting from all these other organizations that we really believe in.
I agree. I mean, I think Stan was quite particular about fully funding them, so that's why I'm not taking a stronger stance. But I do think like we are funding them at a disproportionate high level compared to, I mean, look at the others. I mean, I really don't see any room for cutting Crisis Clinic or Teen Link. You know, those are really great programs, and you know, the amounts are so small.
And I think if we're going to be up for scrutiny, not just from the council, but for the public,
Yeah.
to see how we have cut and scrimped on every single one, but all for CrossPath, we're just giving them 100%.
I
It
agree.
just looking at the numbers, it just wouldn't feel
Yeah.
justified.
Yeah.
So are we saying refined rec is that 90,000 and the carryover just goes away, or are we thinking a different number there? Knowing that there is a point where you need a head count, you got to pay for a head count, you know?
Take it off.
Rita, do you have any ideas about like what would make this feasible? I mean,
Yeah.
we want them to have that one FTE, so.
I really personally just don't think a 5,000 is going to make or break it. You know, especially when you consider youth side services and Friends of Youth are also like dealing with kids in different contexts and through schools. So, you know, they're also a hybrid of both youth side services and Friends of Youth. I know both organizations have foundations. Actually, Terry might be able to speak to that. But I personally don't think that would make or break whether they have someone. A 5,000 is not gonna.
Do you think, so I'll be bold, do you think we'd be, okay, I'm sorry, Terry, were you going to jump in?
No, I was just going to say, I think that's right. I mean, Friends of Youth does have a foundation that supports the agency.
I'm going to be bold and wonder aloud, knowing that it's going to come down to pennies, and if we said CrossPath went to 87,500, and the 5,000, I guess that's more like 6, 7, that'd be an $8,000 just goes away. That we go to CrossPath and we say, you wanted 95, we got to 87.5. Can you do it? They're not going to say no, I don't think, or fund it elsewhere, like find a way. But we're going to take that $8,000 that is the difference between 95.5 and 87.5, whatever it is, and it's just going to go away, meaning it's going to reduce our total ask by that. Any thoughts on that?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have this scrutiny. Okay, and then carryover goes away. Okay, good. And then Nishina, we put the 15 back in UC side, but the carryover, etc.
And then Friends of Youth, we said we'll get it down to 8,000.
So it'll be 8 and 2.
Instead of the 10,000.
Okay. 8,000 and carry over 2,000.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. That's nice progress. Good. So our net, if we're keeping a running total, it's actually 15.5 plus that.
From the CrossPath, we deducted quite a bit.
3, 4, 87,500. So that's 8,034 plus the 11,000 plus the 2,000. This is going toward the 325, knowing that in 2,500, knowing that what's in carryover will be asked. But we have identified a total of 23,534 toward our 65,000. And we can't possibly ask for anything more from Regina.
So we reduced 37,000, I think. We went from 175, I think, to 138,000 roughly.
Did we? I had it lower than that.
Didn't we? Or I don't know.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. So Mike had the thing at the top there where it shows you your original recommendation, your refined recommendation, the carryover. So yes.
So 37,000 or so we reduced. So, I mean, I don't think there's any further scope.
No, I think that's great.
Yeah, no. Although I think we only reduced 23.5 because we're off by 40.6 and we were off by.
Oh, okay.
So
I did.
it's still a
Okay.
huge number, but just, okay, perfect, thank you. And we will do everything we can to put the carryover back in the total for sure, but for now, it's getting to the 325. Okay, let's move to basic, what's the next one? Basic needs?
Well, you see what we did. Everything that had a strong service to Sammamish stays in the refined recommendation. Everything that we ought to be in the regional good because we have people in need has moved over to the extra ask. If we needed to reduce anything, I think we need to leave in place the very basics of Issaquah Food, St. Vincent de Paul, Issaquah Community Service, and there's a couple of others in there that Eastside Baby Connor, and likely the MAPS Food and Gas Distribution Program. The rest of them are small. Hate to lose them. Okay, guys, speak up.
Thank you, Joyce. And CJ, you were on this one. I'm just gonna say that it's not going to hurt current operations if we move the refined recommendation for the food banks from that 20 to 15 plus 5, knowing that the request was 25 and what we gave them last year, probably 20. But if we're looking to be budget conscious toward the 325, knowing I think the carryover should come back to us, I believe. Don't know, can't predict. But I would just suggest that we would be okay unless, George or CJ, you have a strong feeling knowing the operation of the food bank. If we went 15,000 and then a 5,000 carryover, I don't think that would be particularly harmful.
We gave them 12.5 last year.
Okay.
How do we know if we reduce these amounts that they're asking for, that there aren't going to people that are going to go away hungry? They're going to say, well, this is all they gave us. This is all we got. I guess we just can't give out as much food. People can't get as much. We don't ever, the process doesn't allow us to go back to some of these organizations that are basic need things, that are the basic needs, the basics, food and shelter. How do we know that that people aren't going to be left astray because we decided, oh well, we don't need all this?
Well, I can only speak for the food bank and say that will not happen.
Why won't it happen?
Because this is continuing operations for them, but I also know that they have other donors. If we're trying to use the 325 the best possible, I'm also somewhat confident we'll get the carryover coming back to us. Again, trying to push toward 325 as our position A. I'm just telling you based on everything I know that it would be fine to go 15 and 5 and no one's going hungry. That's for the food bank. I can't comment on St. Vincent de Paul, and I think you might well be correct on that one because they're in a different business. So
I would also like to continue to have Imagine Housing in there. That's our Section 8 people at Kalani.
And then Issaquah Community Services, they're on the pointy end of the spear right now, right? On helping with rent relief and that kind of thing.
Yep. They're all volunteer, just as St. Vincent de Paul is.
And I just want to acknowledge you guys have cut down a lot. Particularly
actually, if you take a look at the requested amount of 302,000, our refined recommendation brought us to 40% of the original ask.
Yes.
If we can draw back the monies from the extra ask, it brings us to 59% of the original ask. And this is basic needs.
Yes, and you actually cut to 64% with your round 2, and then I do see the 40%. I was just fooling around with some numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I also think basic needs is a powerful place to do an extra ask says, look, we need more money than this. The community does. I'm just recommending right now, unless someone feels, like I'm going to defer to you guys. But if we're trying to get to 325, I feel like we can take 5 out of Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank and move it to carryover. That would bring us to 28.5, chasing that 65. And I don't think it's going to hurt anything. The other ones, they're so small, and this is basic needs, and you guys have cut a lot. If anything, I'm just going to say out loud, have you cut too much relative to the extra ad, relative to homeless services and that kind of thing? Because you are basic needs.
Well, just look at Sophia Way at the top asking for 34, and we haven't refined it to 0. And so we're saying extra ask of 10. Now, we know that they are brand new. It's probably building into having the staff that is new, and it's also building in the furnishings and all that. So bringing it to 10 felt like an adequate amount for our projected 0 number of Sammamish residents.
And Rita, did you have something?
Yes, and so again, I'm just popping this in, and please feel free to ignore it. So, looking at Washington Poison Center, they do great work, but we're the only city apart from Renton and Tukwila that fund them, and they are so that's what I'm saying is that we're one of 3 cities in the whole of King County that fund them. They have a very big funding source, a big repertoire, big portfolio of funding sources.
What did we give them last year or last cycle?
2,500.
Oh, 2,500, yeah.
If everything counts to get us down there, I mean, what if we went 2 and 1 on them? Knowing that, I know we had a good discussion even 2 years ago about it's important to participate in these kinds of things, but they are not going to go away if we don't do that. But we also want to be a good community citizen. So one approach would be to go the Poison Center, make it 2 on the refined recommendation, and then a carryover of 1. What do you guys think of that?
Say that
I
again,
don't think
please.
the council would think it's big enough. The 1,000 is why bother?
Well, the 1,000 would go to the carryover, so you'd be giving them 2,000.
If the council goes along with it.
Right. But you could say embedded in that is support for the Poison Center. We couldn't afford all of it.
Well, I would suspect the Poison Center is going to come up with money from other sources if we can fund them at all.
So, CJ, would you be okay going 2 and 1 on that one?
Say what that means. What are you saying?
So what it would be is the new recommendation to get to the 325 would be 2,000 for Poison Center, and carryover, which would be included in the additional ask, would be 1,000. So you'd be getting the 3,000, but we're breaking it up 2,000 and 1,000.
I'd go to 0. Poison Control Center is going to get funded. No, it doesn't require the city of Sammamish to do that. It's going to keep going on.
I remember you had that exact same comment 2 years ago.
Well, that's because of the profession that I was in, and people, the things that I saw that people called them about. They are going to get funded.
Okay.
If somebody doesn't get a house because we didn't give enough money, that I wouldn't say they are going to get a house. Otherwise, they wouldn't be out on the streets.
Right.
I think it's just too easy to say, oh, well, we got to make the numbers. Let's just make the numbers. We'll have to figure it out.
Well, I'm okay with that. Joyce, do you want to weigh in? So what he's saying is don't fund them.
I disagree. I'm fine with the 2 and 1.
I've just pulled out their application. I think one of the things that impressed me is they have they served last year over about 369 residents. That's a significant, to me, that's a significant number of residents. And so I think that there should be some funding. I certainly don't disagree that if we were to reduce it by 1,000 and move the other 1,000 into the ask.
I'm going to propose we go 2,000 and 1,000. Let me know if we should take a vote on that. So what we're saying is thank you for that, Terry. That's a good reminder. And I think we had a very similar discussion 2 years ago where they do have the money, but they do serve Sammamish. So I'm going to suggest 2,000 for refined recommendation and 1,000 into carryover.
Are you talking about the Poison Center?
Yes, we're still on that one.
So say that again, please.
So what's happened is, CJ, we've built off of your insight, but I think there's a hesitancy to go to 0. So the group is settling on for the refined recommendation would be 2,000 and carryover would be 1,000. Unless we want to punt the carryover, because we're going to need to pull that number down a little too. What do you think of that, Joyce?
Well, having used their services, my daughter using their services, I am so glad that they're there, and I think our city should be doing something for them.
Are you okay if we just put 2,000 in refined, but not go with the carryover because we have to trim that over time too?
Has
Why don't we
anybody,
pick on
has
somebody else?
anybody talked to the Poison Control Center and said, hey, we're doing this for our city and we don't, what happens if we don't give you the money? Where do you get it from?
So can I just say, so when we have funded them in the past, they will come and do outreach, which would mean come to the farmers market and do Mr. Yuck or whatever else. But other than that, we didn't have any Sammamish focus activities. It was just they were recording the residents that were calling in, and there was no extra preference to whether someone was coming from Sammamish or not.
Okay. So we're getting caught up on smaller numbers here, but knowing we're trying to move both to the 325, but also take the full number down reasonably, I'm going to would anyone like to vote on the Poison Center going to 2,000 for the refined recommendation, but no carryover. So we're funding them, but we're not asking anything in the carryover. Would anybody like to put a motion to put that vote forward? Hearing no one.
I with Tom's suggestion. I would move to do that.
Okay, do we have a second?
I would second that.
Okay, all in favor of going 2,000 refined and 0 carryover, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye. 4. All against?
Aye.
And Joyce, I don't know if I heard you.
Abstaining.
Abstaining. So 4-1 abstain. Motion carries. It's going to go 2,000 and no carryover. Thank you for that. And we're probably going to have to do that in some cases. And please nobody take it personally. We're just trying to do the best we can for our community. Okay, so I am going to make a motion that I would like to ask for a motion to make the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank go 15,000 and 5,000. Would anybody like to forward that motion?
I'll make it.
Any second?
I'll second Jody.
Okay. All in favor?
Well, wait a minute, wait just a minute.
Aye.
Tom, you have the inside because you've been the chair of that organization. Do they have, what happens if we cut money? Do people go hungry, or others will chip in and
They will not. It's important that they keep continual community flow in, but if something were to happen where they don't get the carryover, no one will go hungry. I can say that confidently.
Okay, then I will change my vote to I vote for it.
Okay. So any questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor of the 15.5 setup? say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. We're making good progress here. So we just went 5, we got another 6,000. We are now at 29.5. We spent a fair amount of time in this area. Is there anything else we should be discussing? And it's okay to also say, wow, I kind of feel like the extra ask could be beefed up or whatever. And you guys have done really great discernment to get us to where we are. I just want to make sure we're not being too skimpy here. Any other comments on the basic needs section?
What about Sophia Way? The one that's, let me find that here.
Ellen's Place at the
Where
top.
we got 10,000 out. We're going to give them 10. We're putting 10,000 in the extra ask. We're hoping they're going to get it. We don't know that we're going to get it. That's people. That's people out in the cold weather.
That's pretty much the extra ask column.
Well, I see that, and that's my concern. Is if we say, okay, well, we'll just put in the extra ask, and I don't know what the people on the council think about. I would think they're humane people, and we read all the time about homeless people and the problems, all the time, year after year after year.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty powerful actually to say within the extra ask is helping homeless people because we couldn't include it in to get to your budget. There's a lot not in there, and included in there are, homeless services, etc. So I think it stacks up pretty well, but again, I can't predict. So I'm not sure if
I would rather try to find some way to get some money to meet the budget for people that are doing something for homeless people. That's just a hard thing to pull out and say, oh yeah, well they'll find some way to do it. I'm not sure I believe that.
So what action would you be proposing here, TJ? So
I would not decrease anything from the requested amount for any of these agencies that are helping people that are homeless. And I know that's kind of dire, but I think that it's not the same as food. We're going to get more food. If somebody where are these people going to sleep? We're just going to say, well, I'm sorry, but we say to the council, but council, you're giving this amount per capita versus all the other cities around us, and what are they giving per capita? They need to stand up to this.
Okay, I'm just reacting to the refined recommendation, and I'm seeing that somehow you guys got to the point you pulled all that out.
Well, I'm talking about maybe putting it back in.
Okay.
Well, I figured the extra ask was going to be part of the extra ask, just because it's homeless and we need to do our regional good.
That's what I would guess. That would be my guess. The issue is by putting it back in, it then goes against what we've done already. And we can do anything. I'm just calling out that and I guess to try and move things along, what I would propose is that we work through the other groups.
Yeah.
And then we come back to the homeless discussion and see if we can squirrel away some in that 325 after we go through the other groups. That's okay.
Okay, that's fine with me to come back to it.
Okay, and remind me of that, but I'll make a note as well. Okay. So it gets harder from here, gang, because we've just gone through 73%, but we've done a great job as a commission just throwing our ideas out there. The next one up is cultural inclusion. And I think we're looking for, Mike, can you confirm at the very top, we're looking for an incremental? I have that we pulled down 29.5. So yeah, I have what we're looking for about 35K, right? So, okay.
Okay, 30, so like, that's like about a little over 10,000 roughly.
Per chunk, yeah.
Okay.
And so, Jody, this is kind of over to us, taking each area and
I think it'd be great, Tom, if you want to just summarize our approach, and then we can go through.
sure. Trying to upload all that at this point. You know, we had 3 areas. The total percent was 10, 19, 27% or so, but 3 distinct areas. We thought it important to continue supporting each area, knowing in some cases, some things are kind of more dire, like feeding people. But we also saw that there was some significant overlap into other areas. So IAWW, the Mental Health Support Program, we thought it important to support that because of their one, their perspective on mental health, and 2, they've been extremely generous in their sharing the impact of their programs. And so while we couldn't support them all the way, we thought it important that they get funding from us. Um, we cut down a fair amount from Issaquah schools. In MAPS, I believe this is the very first time they've requested from us. So we wanted to show some skin in the game, but obviously we pulled that number way down.
No, that's for hosting families, 12 families.
The refugee and immigrant assistance.
Yeah.
And is there another MAPS here somewhere? Possibly. I think that's where it's like, it's a little bit like some of what I know Food Bank and Hopeling does. You walk off the street and you're in trouble, they will help you. I'm not saying that it is, well, I don't know. That's why we wanted to support them in some way. You know, I'm thinking out loud, Jody, but I could fairly easily see on IAWW, starting from the bottom and working up, cutting that cultural navigator program to say half. So it might be, and these are smaller numbers, but 3,000 and 1,500 to carry over. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I could do that.
So let's do that. That's a start. That gives me 15. What did I just do? 1,500. I don't know. My understanding. Let's handle MAPS. I could look it up, but my understanding is it was the fund that they use. Rita, do you have any color on that one as I look that one up?
So this is a new program. We've never funded them before, and they've never applied to us. And it's the Muslim Association of Puget Sound. They're based at the Together Center, and they provide like basically like an information referral program for refugee and immigrants.
I mean, I'm thinking out loud, but one approach could be it just didn't make the cut in the budget, but it's important that we fund them in some way. So even though we're down to 2,500, you could say 0 for the refined recommendation to get to 325 and the 2,500 carryover. Jody, any thoughts on that one?
I'm really on the fence on that one, just because I do feel like it's a population that isn't served, is a really underserved population in our community, and it's the only organization that of all the across the board, if you look at all of the applications in every area, that focuses on this population. And it's so little money. I know. I have to find it and go. I mean, I understand we have to cut, so I'm looking at the other ones to see what else.
Yeah, and feel free to, Is it possible to move up so we can actually see cultural inclusion, seniors, and DV all in, or close to one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can go through by piece. Maybe IAWW on the human services one, we go down to 8 and put 4 in the extra ask.
Well, we're at 10 now, so it would be 8 and 2.
2. Yeah.
Oh, right.
We-
But we already have 2 in the extra ask. I see. In the carryover, yeah, put
Yeah.
8 and 2 in the carryover.
Or you
I
could go,
a little more cushion there than the 2,500 for maps. And
I
we're also
agree.
doing IAWW in a couple other areas, so maybe we knock them down to 8.
Let's see what that does for us. So that's 8 and 2. That gives us another 2,000. The only thing I was going to say is you could go 6 and 4, meaning you'd give them on that one half of their requested, which is kind of what we did under the mental health support program. I don't know if that would be feeling too deep for you on that, Jody, or anyone else.
I'm open to it. How do other folks feel?
Does anybody have any significant angst over going to 6,000 IAWW human services with the 4,000 on carryover? It's tough. Let's do that. Really no
All right.
pushback.
Let's move it and then move on and see what we
Yeah, let's see where we. So Eastside Friends, you want to go down to seniors?
Sure.
Okay. Eastside Friends, I understand last time we gave 17,000, correct?
20,090, according to their paperwork.
Oh, 17. Right.
That's correct. It was 20,000.
Okay.
And that was for 70 resident clients projected.
So Joyce, I'm just going to, you and I may have to recuse ourselves here, but yet the senior center, is a lot of effort, good activity, not meeting in person, knowing, I think Jody had a great perspective, which is it's going to crush us if we don't get some qualified part-time help.
Oh, yeah.
Having said that, would it crush us any more or less if we went to like 10 and 2,500 or something like that?
In addition to the extra ask of 2,500?
Yeah. I'm hoping we will pick up more from the community. I think the plans are still formative, just thinking out loud. I think that kickstarts our help, and once it's formed up, it ends up giving us something as a foundation or a springboard to jump off of. But I don't actually think we would necessarily do any less or be in any better shape if we went to 10,000 instead of 12,500.
And moving the other 2,500 over?
Yeah, so it now read 10,000, 2,500, 2,500. And we're also hoping Issaquah and others pony up. So that just gave me another 2,500. And if you guys want to, Joyce and I, to recuse ourselves for further discussion on the Samara Senior Center, that would be fine. Let us know. Let's see how far we can get, and we'll come back to that question.
Tom, I think we'll need to extend the meeting also. We are at 8:27.
Oh my God, we're not going to finish this in 3 minutes?
I don't know. Maybe
No.
we will.
Would anyone like to move to extend the meeting for 30 minutes?
I'll move.
Okay,
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, and let's make sure we're done by then. Okay, Providence Marionwood was a weird one, a little bit, wasn't it, Jody?
I'm kind of thinking we just take them off and then
What was the thinking on that one? It was
they're mostly Issaquah. They weren't serving that many people in general. Let me just pull it up.
250.
But so just very quickly to clarify, their residents tend to be from all over. They're not actually, there's very few from Sammamish in their count.
The big piece for them that I liked about them, the one piece was that they serve folks who can't afford. So they serve poor, low income and disabled folks. They don't turn folks away if they can't pay. They find the money. So that was the big thing for me on why I wanted to fund them. But otherwise, it's they're in Issaquah. They don't serve that many Sammamish residents. Their residents come from all over.
What are they providing them?
It's daycare, senior residential, and daycare for seniors.
So actually residents for housing.
They call that uncompensated care.
Well, they had 191 in 2019 from Sammamish.
But was that just part-time? A lot of times people
Well,
will go
they
into,
bump in and come out because it's a rehab place too.
that's right, they go in for a short time and they get rehab, supposedly broke a hip or something, and then they get released back to home again.
Yep.
Well, I guess one thought is if you put a circle around seniors, if you even now add in the Sammamish Senior Center, Eastside Friends of Seniors, if you're to pull this out, talk about the other ones, which are not big. The reality is Sammamish is putting more into seniors than we ever have, I think. I think we probably could get away with, at a minimum, going to 0 on Providence Marionwood under the core recommendation and dumping that over to carryover, or making it go away altogether. I don't, it's tough because they asked for 10. They're primarily Issaquah. What do you think, Jody, about just not funding?
I think that if we have to cut, that's the one we would cut. We take
Right.
0. Just don't fund them.
And that has a double whammy of getting closer to the core, and it also takes out of, it's not fun, but now we're at 40,000.
But you got your Eden Seals with only 7 people projected from Sammamish.
Okay.
Yeah. As that's a good point, Tom, that you made, that we are funding seniors at a higher level than we have in the past. Out of the ones that we are funding, it has the least impact on Sammamish. So,
And Easter Seals,
the Easter Seals is 7 residents of Sammamish. At about
$3,000 last year. $3,000 last year.
Yeah, and they're asking for it. It's daycare. About 7 residents, so it's about $1,000 per resident, and that they're asking for investment. They serve immigrants, vets, and adults with disabilities.
So just very quickly, so Jody, I visited the place, and it really is adults with disabilities, predominantly most of the clients there.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, can we keep that one at 3,000 since we're cutting out Providence and moving 10?
Rita.
Might I suggest the Sound Generations? It's only 779, but I don't think it's a pooled contract, which means that staff is going to be processing that. So
it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
too much cost for $780 is just not going to break them.
That's 621 deals.
Just to say out loud, the only reason we thought it was the first time they ever asked us for money, and I agree there's an administrative burden for such a low amount of grant, is that we think over time seniors in Sammamish can benefit from learning about what Sound Generations does in their operations. And it seemed like it was a little bit of a support them in some minor way, and they'll be all the more willing to share with us their learning and their understanding of the needs out there, knowing that they tend to serve, Joyce, I know you've said this a bunch of times, very low income folks, which is fine. But that was the only reason that it seemed like such a small amount. Just throw it in there, and at least we have permission to, say we support you. But I'm open to that not being acceptable to the group.
Those eight people for projection is 621 meals projected. That's Meals on Wheels anyway.
I mean,
The
what do you, Joyce?
transportation was
I'm
only
curious.
50 round halfway trips, for the transportation program,
Mhm.
but you have nothing into.
Okay, well, so we move down, shall we?
Evie,
I'm wondering if we should move East Side Friends of Seniors to 15 and put 2,000 in carryover.
I think I'd be okay with that. So that would be 2,000. We're at 42 by my calculations.
I understand the sound generations. I'm okay either way, but I do feel like just administratively for staff to manage that contract with Outcomes for $700 and $800 just doesn't really make sense.
Rita, am I smoking something and or Joyce on it gives us permission to say, hey, help us, or would they do it anyway? I totally hear for less than $1,000, why are we doing it? Any comments on that?
We didn't fund them last go round on that. They still provide those services. And it's up to you guys. If that's the will of the commission, we will make it happen and we'll make sure we process their checks. So it's really up to you guys.
Joyce?
I think getting help from Sound Generation is okay for us to go direct as we have been going.
Meaning we don't necessarily have to do this?
We don't have to show both hats.
All right, and $779 is nothing compared. All right, so you good going to zero and just punting?
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
I think we should go to 0.
All right, thank you. 42,813. Now we're ready to take on domestic violence.
Okay.
Okay, to get all the way to our target, I'm not suggesting it. We'd have to take 22,000 out of this, which is a big number.
I have a
Okay.
question about LifeWire's Survivor program because the requested amount was 25 on the outside of their application, and it was over 30,000 on the inside of their application. What are they really asking for?
I don't know. We just went with the lower amount.
Which one is that? Survivor?
Yeah, the top
Um,
one. Whatever.
We're going to very quickly scroll to the top to see how much we have to cut, just so we can get some.
I think we need,
okay.
go ahead. I think we need
21.
22. 21, 22,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I don't know, honestly, the answer to your question, Joyce, but I think let's just go with the lower amount.
We gave them 27.7 last year.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I feel like with ELAP we're giving them the full amount and everyone else we cut. So maybe they're not asking for much, but maybe we knock them down to 3,000.
So 3 and 2?
3
Or
and 2.
just punt it? Would you want to put the 2 on carryover or just punt it in total?
I would prefer in carryover for now.
Okay, so that's
then
another.
LifeWire, I'd say go down to 15. On
Okay,
the one. And see how we are. I don't know. How do folks feel? I don't want to cut this. This is not that I want to cut them. I just
no, I know.
we're trying to come up with some cuts.
Well, we're in a position now where we are about 15 off the 325.
Okay.
Sexual assault we gave nothing to last time, and we didn't give anything to the LifeWire housing stability last time.
The housing, the reason we felt like we had to give some is similar to what CJ is saying. In this time of COVID,
Oh, yeah.
housing was just one that we felt like this time we really should support, particularly for survivors. It's harder for them to leave at this time because of all the the barriers are just exacerbated in housing.
Right. I
So
agree.
it's not much compared to what they asked. So
And for me on the sexual assault, I mean, that was my group last time, and I was like, well, actually, Jody and I talked about domestic violence. That's not, I mean, it sounds weird, but sexual assault is not domestic violence. But when the gal came to visit us and she spent time on the panel, I think I came away saying the umbrella headline is it's violence in some form. So it seems inappropriate to not participate on some level. And also there is a communication aspect here and a sense of good community support. That's how I got to we should be doing, that's how we got to doing something here.
So shall we move for LifeWire, move it, put refined recommendation is 15 and carryover, put in 5.
We could do that. This is hard. So if we go 15 and 5, that's another 5,000. Now we're off by 10-ish.
Which LifeWire are you talking about?
The survivor advocacy service.
Thank you.
So now how much are we off? 10?
Can we go up top? I think it's about 10.
All right.
14. Yeesh. How did I do that?
Am I understanding that what we're making decisions on now, we will not change at the next meeting? Or we could?
We're going to vote on this tonight, aren't we?
Tonight. Huh?
That's the hope. That's weird. I thought we were doing it 10. Let's see if there's any.
We are off by how much now?
10.
No, I think it's 14. I don't know how I.
Yeah, 14,375.
Yeah, I must have double counted the 2 or something. I'm going to go with Mike's number. Trust Mike more than me on them. Okay.
So we can cut more from mental wellness, I think, like the.
Can you scroll up the mental wellness? Yeah, let's see.
I mean, for youth east side services, I was saying 10,000, and then we decided to keep it at 15. We could go down, like.
Go 10 and 16.
What if
Yeah.
what if we went to the ones that were kind of fully funding, even if they asked a lot, that NAMI, crisis clinic, and we just put them down 1,000 each. So it's like instead of 6,000, it's 5,000. Instead of 5,000, it's 4,000.
I like that. Let's see if we do that. See what that does for us.
Yeah.
I mean, this is trimming, right? But
Yeah.
let's propose that we
Spread it out.
actually don't carry over because we're going to have a carryover issue. We're going to have an extra ask issue a little bit. So, and correct me if you don't support this, but what I'm suggesting is we would just go to 5,000, but not put 1,000 in carryover on those. Thinking, we're just looking to trim some money, and we're trying to cut not only the refined, but we're trying to cut the total ask.
Maybe Encompass go down to 2,000. Or is that just not even worth it?
Just to clarify, so Crisis Clinic, King County 211, did that go down to 3,000 with 1,000 carryover? Or is that staying at 4,000?
Oh yeah, that would be down to 3,000.
Yeah, cutting 1,000, then yeah.
Cut that one.
And what I'm proposing is that we don't carry over these thousands.
Okay, sure.
We
just take it out.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's going to make the total ask. And we're still supporting them just at 80% or so.
And Encompass, why don't we change that to 2,000 instead of 2,500? And Crisis Clinic Teen Link, can you change that to 5,000, even 5,000, take out the 20?
That's $20.
Why
Where did-
can't we, with all these ones we're taking money out of, why can't we put them over into extra ask and push that over into the council to make some of these decisions about things we think are worthwhile? I think we make it too easy when we say, oh, we'll just take it out of carryover, instead of saying it's extra ask. We really think we need it. You think about it.
CJ, can we look at what the total amount is first and then decide if we want to add it back in?
We'll go ahead and look, but I'm not sure I like the idea.
So we're off by 10, and then so let's see, to summarize, we're told 325, we're at 335. The combination of carryover and extra ask is 77,400 and 37,500. So if we put this forward right now, what we'd be telling the council is you are working off a budget of 325. We're saying 335, and we're asking for an incremental $115,000. That feels a little high to me, but it is also the will of the commission, and we've done good work, and I hate to just cut for the sake of cutting, knowing that we need this in the community.
I still think we should push some of this mind noise over onto the council and say, don't make us cut things because you have a budget and you haven't read all these grants. I think we should push it over and say, we think we need this, and you're going to need to look at changing your budget.
Well, we're definitely going to do that. It's a question of how we position it to them and how far we want to go.
Well, I know I have to sleep with the decisions I make, and I suspect all of you do too. And so I think sometimes it's too easy to say, let's just take that out of here and put it into something else, instead of saying, you think about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really reflective of what we're doing here, to be honest. We're trying to get to that core budget as we talked about, and then we're going to wrestle with the extra ask. But I don't think anybody's feeling great about taking any of these into other buckets.
But you said we're going to decide on these tonight. We've got 15 minutes. I don't think these are easy decisions.
That's true.
I think we need to, at least if we're coming in at 335, I think we need to at least identify the 10,000 to get to the 325. That's the budget we've been given.
I agree.
And if we come in and say, I'm sorry, it's 335, that's what we're going to have, and they're stuck on 325, then their first question may be, I know, we told you 325, where's that other 10? What should we do to cut that other 10? Or they're going to do that themselves. So I think it's incumbent on us to
Yeah, it's not a good, I agree with Terry, it's not a good idea for them to be cutting it and just randomly.
So go ahead, sorry.
A bird's eye view that I can look at these larger grants and trim off 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, and we can get to 10. So like LifeWire going from 20 to 18, East Side, Friends and another 2 go down to 15.
And would you put that in carryover?
I'm in the middle of meeting.
Yeah, for now.
Okay, so let's do that. The other thing we can do, and Joyce is not going to agree to this, is this is 2.9%. We could trim everything by 2.9% and be there. But
Not basic
numbers,
needs.
what?
Not basic needs.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that. And the numbers get wonky too, like, they get uneven and weird.
Yeah.
All right, Jody, why don't you lead that? Find $10,000 that we wouldn't lose, but we're going to put it in carryover.
Starting from the bottom, domestic violence for LifeWire senior advocacy. Let's go down to 18. Or sorry, yeah. No, wait. What are we on now? 15.
We're at 15. We're at 15.
Yeah, I'm looking at my spreadsheet. Let's go down to 13. Oh, I hate to do this. Okay, 13 and put in 2 more in carryover.
Okay.
The 7. And then East Side Friends of Seniors go down to 13 and put 4,000 in carryover.
You know, my pause there is that they've been extremely helpful, and that starts to feel very low.
Yeah.
Joyce,
Okay.
you might yell at me, but I would be more comfortable going down to 8 for the Sammamish Senior Center and carrying that over.
It's up to you guys. I'm fine with that. I hate to go down to 8 for
Me
seniors.
too.
You guys have done, I mean, the work is.
Unless we punt Easter seals too. That's the other thing, go 0 and 3
Yeah,
on
let's
Easter
go
seals.
0 on Easter seals.
Would you carry over to 3 or 0, 0?
I don't know.
If you
Just
zero
saying
out,
regional good. Easter seals.
I think let's just invest more deeply in East Side Friends of Senior and Senior Center and then just make it 0. So go
so
back
0,
East Side Friends of Senior and make that 15 again.
okay. And are we going to 0 out Easter seals, nothing in the extra ask, which would take pressure a little bit off the number, by the way?
Yes, I think we should do that.
Okay. So
Okay.
that 2,000 is going to 0.
Okay.
We have now taken another 2,000.
Okay, so move up.
I think we're down to 6. Is that correct?
Yeah, 5. Okay,
5.
good. Do this.
Ooh.
We can do this.
I mean, in mental wellness, like the top 2 ones, like we didn't deduct anything further from those.
Okay. So we can take
I
3,000
mean,
from that, maybe.
yeah. I mean, there's some potential like with CrossPath and the Youth East Side services.
Okay, how about
Maybe the Youth East Side, maybe.
Okay. What do you think, Nishina?
I mean, originally I was proposing 10,000. I don't know whether we should go that low, but we could.
That seems so low when they asked for 60.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah,
we gave them
How about
26 last
Path
year.
we go to 85? Take 2,500 off of it.
Yeah,
I think
That's
that's fair.
yeah, that
That's
makes sense.
2,500. I think we're now searching for 2,500 to get to this.
Okay.
So from Youth East Side, maybe we can reduce 2,500, no?
Or
Like it's
23,
at 15,000 right now.
Let's go down Youth East Side like 1,000 and then see if we can find another 1,500 somewhere else.
Mm.
It's tough to go that low, but it is what it is.
So Tom, Tom, tell me what this carryover column, what happens to that carryover to all these things that we're not paying for?
That is,
We're going to ask. That's our proposal.
yeah, that's the additional ask. So we
The
just
carryover is the ask, the extra
Yes.
ask, and the carryover is both the ask?
Yes, yes.
We're adding those together. How about we put down NAMI to 4,000 and Crisis Clinic to 4. Just try it. Crisis Clinic to 4. And then where are we now? Scroll back up. Where are we? How much off are we? 255. We can find that. Okay.
I'll write a check.
Yes. Oh, here. Okay. Athletes for Kids down to 2,000.
All right,
Then
we're
we'll
good.
be under. Then we'll be under.
Yeah, then we'll be under.
Can we just even that out? What were they, 2,500?
Yeah, so
They would
put
go to 20.
2,245 it'll become.
Yeah, thank
let's
you.
I prefer. Okay, fine. That's good.
And can we confirm we're at the 3? Yes. Okay. Now, and I know we're running out of time here, 39,500. So where we are is we have defined our core recommendation to budget of 325, and nobody feels great about it, just to be clear. The community needs much more. We've thrown some of the additional away, but we've carried a lot of it over. That's the 39.5. And then based on our discernment, we are doing an extra ask beyond that of 75. So what we're saying is 325 plus 39 plus 75.
Can you, Mike? Can you put a column right under those percentages and add up the carryover and the extra ask? So I can see it in one number.
It's 114, I think.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
1149.
That's totally reasonable to ask for 115 more. I
Mhm.
don't,
You
Yeah.
guys think so?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm good with that.
Tom, what would you suggest being the one who negotiated last year? Do you think we should be under 100? Would that make
Well, I think it's crazy because then it starts to almost disrespect the work we've done. And first of all, there's strain in their budget, but 75 versus 115 for a millions and millions and millions of dollar budget for the city, it
Yes.
feels like we'd be doing more pain and almost without any real rationale cutting when they may say no way, only 325, which would be extremely disappointing. But I don't know. I mean, yes, 75 is lower than 115, but does anybody want to go through this and find another 50,000? And then it feels like we're just not respecting the work we've done. Does that make
No,
sense?
and I think when it comes to the extra ask, I think that I view that very much as a negotiation, and we're the one that should start high because they're going to probably start low.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Lawyer.
Tom, is there any way to have a discussion with some of the council members about what we're pushing over to them? And is there any reality they're going to come to it? Or we're just writing it off because they gave us a number and that's what we're going to do too?
No, we should.
No.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
We're not.
Nobody's saying it, but I'm saying, was that the effect of it? We're trying to get this number, and we're saying I think we're disregarding some of the things we've turned up that are the needs in our community.
But CJ, what I'm saying is if we followed what we just arrived at, we would be going in, making a request to the council for $440,000. Okay. That's not zero, and it's much higher than last year. And that feels robust to me. Now you could say, why don't we add the 780? Now the reality is 787 went to 488 very quickly because we didn't find much merit between those. And now here we are sitting at 440 versus at 440, 488. It's not that different, really. I don't feel like we're leaving anyone truly behind. I think it's going to be a push to get them to support us at 440, but I feel like that's where we're netting out right now. And I'm not apologizing for it. I think it's a good work and it's a good place to be.
It's
Tom, when
good
you
work,
made
but
that
it's not the right answer.
In what way?
It's not the right answer, and I don't think we should, just because they said, how did they arrive at that 325? But
It was a
they just,
carryover from last year.
well, I mean, that's not what's happening in the economy. We have the virus going on. Things are not good in the area, and we're saying, well, they want that. That's the number they want.
So CJ, we're not saying 325, we're saying 440.
I still don't think that's I'm sorry. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
CJ,
What
what are
number-
you suggesting? What would you think we should do?
I think I would like another week to think about it, to look at all the things that we've got back.
We don't have
What?
another. Given what we have today, what would you suggest? Give us a solution.
I can't do that in 10 minutes or 5 minutes. I need
We've
to think
been
about
spending
this.
4 weeks on this, CJ.
I know, but we haven't gotten down to the decision.
It's not like we haven't put thought into this, that you haven't had time to think about this.
I've thought about my grants. I haven't thought about all these other grants. That's just that's personally my
All right,
decision.
well, let me take allow me to take the temperature of the group, knowing that there's a commission for a reason, 6 of us tonight. I'm just going to say out loud, would anyone like to forward a motion to present to council the total ask as outlined here, and I believe the number is $440,000 as broken out between the 325 and the additional ask. Would anyone like to make a motion to vote on that tonight?
I will.
So moved.
And I heard a first and a second. There's 6 of us. Who would Any further discussion on this? CJ's held forth that wants more time, but I'm also wanting to check the temperature of the group. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor of supporting the 440 as outlined, inclusive of the 325, say yay.
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 All and yay. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so it's 5-1. And so what we have is a commission that's saying, here is what a recommendation is. Doesn't mean we can't reflect on this more, but that's our standing recommendation as of now.
So you're gonna send us, when are we gonna get the redone on what we've seen on the screen here?
Mike will send it to us tonight. And I've got 5% left on my laptop.
Okay. And
It's getting
CJ,
darker and
recall
darker.
last time you had some good insights about how to reach out to the council, and this is when you could actually have coffee with people. But as we put this forward, we did a great job engaging with them too. So we'll want to talk about that. You know, I think personally we're ending up in a good place after a lot of discernment. And so specific next steps as we run out of time. Rita and Mike, you'll send this out to us in its form. I will engage with Rita, Mike, and Stan to start to pull together our story and our recommendation, and I'll review that with us. And then we'll come back with timing on when we'll get into the council, etc. Is that a fair place to leave tonight's discussion?
Yes.
Just really quickly, when is the council, when are we scheduled to present?
Currently set for 9:15 is my understanding.
Okay.
And 9:15, and it would just be probably Stan and I presenting, but if everyone can be in attendance, that'd be excellent.
And my sense is that we also need to have one final meeting, and it wouldn't have to be, if the commission wants, to like talk about like what we're going to talk about, or we can just give it to Stan and Tom and
Great to have another
the commission.
Wait, can we
And
follow up
Rita,
in that a week or two? Or?
Well, the 9th would be our regular second Wednesday.
Rita, when are we discussing the rest of the book?
Oh, that is for you guys to discuss now and figure that out. So by the 9th, just so you know, it is our commission meeting. However, by that time, the packet would have gone out to the commission. It would be, oh, okay. So it basically, you would be seeing the materials that will be going into the packet. But
Could we reconvene? I feel like it would be good. And I'm just trying to respect our protocol. Can anyone want to make a move? We may not need all this time to make a move to extend for 5 minutes.
So
I may
moved.
not be with you.
Okay, we're hurry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think we only need another minute or two. I'm going to suggest if it's possible for us to get together the 2nd, a week from today, review the materials, review the approach. You've seen some of that tonight under themes. I would be willing to take the lead, but I'm going to need help in terms of how we present this, the rationale. Can people
Let's
make,
move a meeting for the 2nd at 6:30.
okay, is that good for people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Hey, Rita, you can
I
send
will
that out.
I'll make every effort to get there.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Rita, you'll send that out?
Okay, so I'll notice that meeting. So Wednesday, September the 2nd at 6:30. Yes. All right.
Perfect. Anything we need to talk about tonight? And next Wednesday, I think we can confirm the book discussion next steps.
Great.
All right.
Agreed.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn, Rita, if that's okay with you, unless you want to keep going. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved. I don't know if you need a second, but all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And just a quick comment. Thank you, everyone, very much. This is hard work. I can sense your passion and belief in this, and I think we're doing good work for the community. You can't do everything, but we're doing good work for the community.
Thanks,
So,
Tom.
thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Amen.
Good job, everybody.
Boy, you guys are dark now. I can hardly see it.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. Take
Good
care,
night,
guys.
all. Stay
Thank you for
safe.
your
All right.
feedback.
Thank you.
Bye.